Welcome to the Better German podcast. My name is Susi Blümel, and I will teach you German and everything around the language, the countries, and the culture. Welcome to this episode of the Better German podcast. In this episode, I'm going to give you an introduction of the differences of the different kinds of German, particularly the Austrian and the German version of German. You could also call it an introduction to the differences of the regional German. Not necessarily going to go into deep into dialects. Let's go over where do people speak German. People mainly speak German in Germany, in Austria, and in Switzerland. Of these countries, Germany is the biggest. Germany is by far, population-wise, the biggest country of those. It's about 80 million, and in Austria we have a little more than 8 million. So roughly, you could say Germany is about 10 times the size of Austria, just to give you an idea. And then Switzerland is population-wise about as big as Austria. However, in Switzerland, we have 4 official languages, and German is one of them. I do believe it's the biggest one. However, now we have a common written language. There is hardly any difference that you find between the language in writing between Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. But when it's about speaking, you hear the difference. The way Austrians say words, and we're not talking about slang yet. The way Austrians say words sounds a little different. And then there are differences for some of the words, not for all of them. I guess you could compare this to the difference between English and American, like British English and American English. So we have the written language, we have the spoken languages, these are different. Now you may wonder what you should learn. I don't think you have to worry about that at the beginning. The basics of German are the same. It's when you come to the more advanced levels, then you try to, for example, listen to movies or listen to radio from each of the areas. Now, what about slang or dialects? So, particularly when you are in the country, not necessarily the big cities, you will have relatively strong regional dialects. That can happen in Austria, in any of those countries. However, I think it will probably happen to you more the more south you are in the German-speaking area. So Bavaria, or even a little bit northern than that, like in the very north of Germany, probably as far as speaking German as a foreign language is probably the easiest because the normal conversational German is the closest to what you will expect when you do a German course or when you hear standard German, maybe in TV, or when you read a book. When you go more south, the spoken dialects, particularly outside of the big cities, may be more different. How this is coming about is there used to be like a lot of different regional dialects. And the first written work in German that many people read that started to standardize the language to some degree was the Bible. So Martin Luther, in the beginning of the 1500s, translated the Bible into German, and that was kind of the beginning of the modern German language. Before that, there were regional dialects that had some things in common, but a lot of things different as well, in pretty much everywhere in the German-speaking area. So, and that's why we have a standardized written language, but we still have those regional dialects, pretty much. How do you go about learning these, you don't worry about them. You learn German, you start with German learning books, you try to start watching TV shows in German. Most German, like German TV shows don't use so much dialect. So you just start learning that. And then, if you're particularly interested in a specific dialect or you live in an area, then once you're fluent in German, you start going into the dialect. There will be exceptions to that, but this is the way how I suggest you to go. I can tell you a story of where it actually went the other way around. I used to work with a teacher, and he also became a friend, but we worked together for a long time. And at that time, we were teaching English in Austria. So we were teaching English as a foreign language to Austrian students, adults mainly. And Andrew was from Australia, and he learned German. He had learned German in school, but he became conversational, like fluent, in a place in Austria called Burgenland. That's one of the states of Austria. So Austria has 9 states, and Burgenland is on the east of Austria. And he had lived there. He had a friend there that he knew from earlier, and he lived there and he lived for some time. And he was also studying. He took a German course at university to later on study economy in university. However, where he learned most was with his friend and guest family in the Burgenland. And in the area he lived, that was a more rural area, people speak their dialect. They're proud of their original dialect. So he kind of learned German with the accent, with the way of the dialect from Burgenland. And that was interesting because it was relatively hard to understand at first. So basically, when he was more in Vienna and more at the university and more with the German students that he started to teach while he did his internship with me, he started to speak German with less of an accent of Burgenland and kind of like more accent free, let's say, or regional accent free German. And then people would actually understand him better, like German speaking people would understand him better. So I do not suggest for anybody who learns German as a foreign language to start going into a particular dialect before you speak, so to say, normal German. You don't have to be perfect in German, for sure not. And yeah, but so my take on it is if you want to be conversational, particularly also with like other German as a second language students or with German speaking people outside a very specific regional region, it is more advisable to learn German relatively straight, not in a regional version, and learn any regional version later. And then it would still be more on the level of understanding it than necessarily speaking it. Because that's the other thing about regional dialects. We all understand German, like neutral German. So, one basic idea I want to bring up here is the idea of Hochdeutsch. Hochdeutsch is a German word. Literally, it means high German. And it is the idea of German spoken without a regional dialect or without a lot of slang. This is not a scientific definition. This is how we use it, like how everyday German speakers use it. There is a more scientific meaning of that word, but I'm not going to go into that yet. So the idea is Hochdeutsch is German without a particular regional dialect. There is theoretically a German, a perfect Hochdeutsch, you could say, that has absolutely no regional thing attached to it. Like, meaning somebody speaks it and you can absolutely not say, this is Austrian German, or this person is from Vienna, or this person must be from Germany. However, this is something that people usually will only achieve when they're being coached, particularly on this. And I've only ever seen this, honestly, by actors or maybe some news speakers. So people have to make an extra effort so you cannot hear where they're from, or they have a totally neutral German, you could say. So for most people in the German, Austria, or Swiss area, it is normal when they speak, even if they don't speak a strong dialect, and speak more or less Hochdeutsch, that you can still hear where they're from. This concept, this idea, is very similar, for example, to the English language. So even when people don't speak a lot of slang, you can usually hear they're British or they're American or, I don't know, South African, Australian, and so on. And that's very similar to this idea. So this is Hochdeutsch. So should you be worried? For example, I speak Austrian German. I'm not totally dialect coached to speak a completely neutral German. So when somebody who's a native speaker hears me speak, they will usually be able to say that I'm Austrian. And when a German person speaks, then I can say that usually within, I don't know, a few words. That is something you immediately hear. However, for you as a learner, it doesn't really make a lot of difference. My suggestion is when you learn German, try to connect different regional dialects. I suggest particularly in German, but also, for example, I suggest to my English students when they are more advanced to watch TV shows that are like from different areas. Like there's a few Irish TV shows. And so I get, okay, good, fine. Don't just watch American TV shows. Watch British TV shows. Watch Australian TV shows. Watch maybe an Irish TV show and things like that. So that's something you go into, but only once you get to be an advanced student. The good thing about about this is that I don't think that now there is anybody alive who doesn't understand Hochdeutsch, like neutral German. There isn't anybody. Maybe 50 years ago, it could be that some people that lived in the countryside or far in the mountains and they never had a lot of school education, that they couldn't understand Hochdeutsch. Now, that's not the case. So everybody understands Hochdeutsch. So when you start learning German and you speak, they will be able to understand. The bigger challenge could be if you are in a particular area where there is more dialect spoken, for example, that could be in certain areas of Austria, then it could be a challenge for you to understand people when they speak their own native language. However, I think, and let me know if you've had other experiences, if you once you try talking to them, they will usually, and you talk directly to them, they will usually adapt to some degree and you will understand them better. However, even I have experienced it to be a challenge when, for example, my family is connected to a very beautiful area of Austria, the Ausseerland, it's called. It's an area that is between Styria. Yeah, it's basically mostly Styria. And it's a very beautiful area, and people speak their own regional dialect there. And when I speak to them, I have absolutely no problem when I speak to them directly and they speak to me. However, when they speak with each other, I have a problem understanding it sometimes. I don't understand all the words. I don't understand the exact flexion. And that's very interesting. I mean, they are speaking my native language. However, if I spend some more time in that area, then it becomes easier. So don't get discouraged. Just keep learning German. try to speak to native speakers as much as you can. They will be, usually, most people will be trying to understand you. Stick to those. If somebody absolutely doesn't want to talk to you, then, well, maybe he's not the right person to talk to. But there will be a lot of people that appreciate very much and understand that it's hard to learn a foreign language, and they will help you. And you will become better and better. And try to worry about regional dialects only after you have mastered basic conversational skills. And then, even then, look at it mainly from a viewpoint of understanding it. The best thing would be, or the easiest thing, if you can get a hold of that, would be to watch TV shows. However, it is not so easy to find a lot of TV shows in dialect, but there's quite some Austrian TV shows. Unfortunately, I haven't found a lot or hardly any with subtitles, which would be best to use. I will be, for my advanced students, what I will do is I will write glossaries. So I can point to some Austrian TV shows and there will be glossaries. So if you're interested in that, then follow me and you will be informed and you will be able to find it on my homepage as soon as it's there. But in the meantime, keep learning German. Don't worry, keep learning German. And I hope this has helped you a little bit. I have a few videos that you can find on my social channels about particularly Viennese German. If you want more of those, let me know. I can only do Viennese. I can't do other German dialects. I understand them. It would just sound wrong. However, if you're interested in that, then let me know. Leave a comment. Ask me if there's particular questions that you don't understand. Ask me. And I just wanted to give you this idea. Sometimes people ask me about German and Austrian German. So I wanted to give you a little bit of an idea. And I'll talk to you in the next episode of the Better German podcast.